Today, Bitcoin hovers and Ether falls while U.S. stocks rebound. The Department of Justice disbands its National Crypto Enforcement Team and switches up the kinds of crypto crimes it'll prioritize. And Todd Ruoff of Autonomys breaks down what's driving crypto markets following President Trump's tariff rollout. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Talia Kaplan. Crypto markets struggling to make up ground this morning while stocks turn higher. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin did manage to hold its ground at the $78,000 level, while Ether fell by around 1.6%. XRP also falling 1.6%, even after Ripple announced an acquisition of brokerage firm Hidden Road. Taking a look at crypto-focused stocks, they're mixed despite that sharp rebound for equities on Wall Street. Optimism that countries might strike deals to avoid sweeping U.S. tariffs weren't enough to lift CleanSpark and Riot, which are down 2 and 3% respectively. However, Marathon and Coinbase are on the rise this morning as the Nasdaq was on pace to recover more than 2.5% as of midday, but prices are changing quickly, so head over to CNBC.com for the very latest. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. The Department of Justice is shutting down its National Crypto Enforcement Team. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche sent a memo to prosecutors saying the division of the U.S. Law Enforcement Office would be disbanded immediately. The memo also outlines some new priorities for prosecutors, narrowing the focus of crypto investigations to drug cartels and terrorist groups, along with crimes that harm investors like embezzlement, scams, and rug pulls. The memo also accused former President Joe Biden's administration of a, quote, reckless strategy of regulation by prosecution, and that the DOJ was making these changes to coincide with President Trump's executive order making crypto a national priority. Next, institutional crypto platform Galaxy Digital is looking to list on the Nasdaq. Yesterday, the company announced it got the nod from the SEC to bring its Cayman Islands business to Delaware, then list shares on the U.S. exchange. Galaxy will hold a shareholder vote on May 9th to approve the company's reorganization. If approved, the firm said it anticipates shares would list as ticker GLXY on the Nasdaq shortly after the vote. The company currently trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange, where shares jumped following the news. Finally, Anchorage Digital is teaming up with BlackRock to offer crypto custody services for the asset manager. The federally chartered digital asset platform announced the partnership this morning, saying it comes in an effort to meet growing digital asset demand from retail and institutional clients. It also said the new partnership makes Anchorage eligible to support BlackRock's spot crypto ETPs. BlackRock is the largest issuer of these products globally. Anchorage Digital joins Coinbase as BlackRock's custody partner for digital assets. According to an SEC filing, Coinbase's custody arrangement with BlackRock will be unaffected by the new partnership. All right, back to markets for our main story. I spoke to Todd Ruoff, the CEO of Web3 infrastructure company Autonomys, about how long investors should brace for the volatility impacting crypto and the broader markets. He weighs in on what it will take to ease some of that strain after President Trump launched his sweeping tariff strategy. Stocks are surging today on hopes the U.S. could reach trade deals to lower duties over time, and yet Bitcoin is pretty flat as of around noon. And we saw Bitcoin break below $80,000 over the weekend on tariff-based global recession fears. At one point yesterday morning, Bitcoin fell to the $74,000 level, its lowest level since November 6th. How do you explain what's going on here?
So Bitcoin's had this safe haven status that has been a big kind of message that it's been putting out since it really started gaining traction. And you know, this was never about necessarily avoiding volatility, but more against protecting against the uncertainties of a shifting monetary policy. And what we're seeing right now is that policy continuing to shift in ways that are very unpredictable. And it's taken us to very much a risk-off type of environment. And as much as we would like to think that Bitcoin, with its ETFs and how they proliferated, has become a much safer asset and certainly garnered more institutional adoption, it is still not immune to the everyday volatility of uncertainty in the markets, which is the biggest problem.
Now, Bitcoin has been relatively stable at the $80,000 level this year. Last week, the cryptocurrency remains pretty steady, bucking the broader market meltdown following Trump's tariffs. In fact, Bitcoin actually rose to end last week as stocks tumbled and even gold fell. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so gold inflows, I've noticed for the first quarter, I noticed it hit the highest rate in 3 years. So gold has certainly been seeing a lot of traction lately. Bitcoin, it seemed that it was going to hold and it had stayed up and outperformed the market toward last week. But now we're seeing this week, it's been giving it back again. The crypto market cap in general, we've lost about a third this year. I think it's down to around it's below 2.5 trillion at this point. So crypto in general, still the sentiment is kind of risk off. People are going for assets. They're seeking more stability. And crypto is still very much viewed as a volatile, risky type of asset. And it's not immune to these types of market shifts.
The acting SEC chairman discussed the fallout from the president's sweeping new tariffs on Squawk Box yesterday, and he was asked about crypto and how correlated the asset class is to the broader market. He said that's one of the biggest questions over the last decade or so. What do you think? Is this a new asset class that will have uncorrelated returns or a greater amount than you see in public markets right now?
I think that it is going to be uncorrelated largely in and of itself. Bitcoin, Ethereum, some of the other larger cryptos will eventually uncorrelate. But when you take an asset that you say is uncorrelated and you wrap it into an exchange traded product and put it on the New York Stock Exchange, now you're correlating it. It becomes an instrument that gets traded on a day-to-day basis, just like anything else. And it's going to be susceptible to the same types of market swings until we have broader adoption of people investing in the native assets, and we get more ETFs. We saw, speaking of regulation that you just mentioned today, the DOJ announced that they have dissolved their crypto enforcement division completely. So that is showing a very positive sign that they are looking to kind of, I wouldn't say deregulate, but kind of step down the regulation and especially the enforcement that's going to allow these types of projects to really proliferate and become more popular.
How long should investors brace for this volatility impacting crypto right now? And what will it take to alleviate some of that instability? What's the best case and worst case scenarios?
Well, that kind of depends on our administration, I think, at this point. Obviously, we're seeing this volatility throughout all the markets. We saw a swing in the S&P yesterday of about 7% in about 15 minutes just because there was a whisper of a potential softening on the stance of these tariffs. So I would say that, the best case is if we are able to resolve some of these international policy issues and we are able to get countries to come to the table and negotiate. And we've seen, again, just like a whisper of a resolution is all the market needs. It's looking for a reason to kind of go the other way. So I think if these international tensions start to settle down in the next few weeks, we could see a recovery more quickly. If not, and we have to wait for these policies to actually take effect, and we have to wait for factories to actually come to the US and be productive. And this entire kind of reshifting of labor, which is what it seems that the administration is pressing for, we could be looking at several years.
And it certainly will be very interesting to see what transpires. Do you think Bitcoin can potentially surpass its high reached back on January 20th, which was Inauguration Day, over $109,000? What do you think it will take to make that happen, especially as we don't really have any major catalysts on the horizon?
Yeah, we don't. I think it's going to take the broader market in general to make a turn. Certainly, we can get above those new highs. When you have Larry Fink from BlackRock coming out last week and saying that he thinks that Bitcoin could actually replace the US dollar in terms of the global reserve currency, that's a big statement. And as those types of sentiments continue to kind of ripple through Wall Street and we start to get more acceptance, I think that absolutely the institutional appetite will continue to increase and we will absolutely see new highs in Bitcoin above 109,000.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.